America is in the midst of a revolution. While there's been a sharp rise in violence and lawlessness, it has been mostly an ideological attack on the nature of truth itself, fostered in our educational system.
Truth has fallen in the streets. Men are no longer lovers of truth.
For example, my truth. I have to live my truth. What is that? That's Gnosticism, pure and simple. Not the truth, but my truth.
There's an effort to destroy everything that was great about Western civilization. They're rewriting the history of the nation, and the end goal is to destroy America and its institutions, particularly the family.
This attack on truth has spawned the idea of intersectionality, which comes from Marxist critical theory and is applied to race, sex, gender, nationality, and a host of other categories.
There's one group of people that they are the oppressors, no matter what they may have done with their lives, no matter what type of life they've lived, no matter what, you are categorically an oppressor. And have a second group of people that are categorically, irrepressibly, and inescapably oppressed. And the main thing that they use to advocate this is skin color.
Part of this attack on truth itself requires a rewriting of America's history through this new lens of victim versus oppressor. This was the approach of the New York Times 1619 Project.
The 1619 Project was launched by the New York Times, and it's an effort to redefine America's founding. The scholars, they're not really scholars, or I'm using the term loosely, the persons behind the project, they really argued that the true founding of our nation was 1619, when the first blacks came to America, or the first slaves, rather than 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was signed. And it's very problematic.
This radical propaganda piece is one manifestation of the phenomenon known as critical race theory, or CRT.
No one knows exactly what it is. They know it has something to do with race, and it's some kind of a theory.
Critical race theory essentially argues that racism is baked into all the systems of American society, and that any sort of neutral system is in fact a guise for racial power.
To say that America has been nothing but an enemy of the people, an institution for death and destruction, is just fundamentally false.
Young people today are told that if they are born, with a particular skin color, that America is such an oppressive country that they are a victim. And it's nothing but critical race theory that paints whites as the oppressors and blacks as the victims, and it's not a true American history.
But the indoctrination doesn't stop there. We're also seeing a growing push to overthrow truth by indoctrinating America's youth with radical sex education and gender studies curricula.
Our children are being targeted all the way down to the kindergarten level with new radical sex ed curriculum materials that are now mandatory in every public school and charter school in the state of California, and many school districts in the Midwest have actually been convinced to adopt it as well.
The LGBT caucuses and political movements are so ingrained in the school systems from university all the way down to preschool and elementaries now that they've created massive educational programs being pushed, by the way, by the Biden administration currently and minions below, to teach children with publications and illustrated examples of the most personal things about sex acts like masturbation. They're beginning to teach 5-year-olds now in the school systems.
Not only are educators promoting these dangerous gender ideologies, some are also openly advocating for their students to transition, with schools providing transition closets.
The goal of the transition closet is for our students to be able to wear the clothes that their parents approve of, come to school, and then swap out into the clothes that fit who they truly are. And I use the idea that this is like Superman changing in a phone booth. And so this gives our trans students the opportunity to be the superheroes that we know they are.
The transgender movement is really the culmination of this Gnosticism within, critical theory. It's the ultimate expression of, I know, and not only do you not know, but you can't know. But then it takes it another step further. I know, you don't know, you can't know. And if you do anything other than bow to what I know, then you are acting not just insensitively, but criminally.
We're buying into these fictions about gender and about, what is real in the mind versus the body without any question at all. And we're doing it only because we don't have the courage to say, you know what, I disagree. I'm not going to bend my knee to this fiction that you're promoting.
Many states are even providing hormone therapy and gender reassignment surgeries for underage children with gender confusion, something the vast majority would eventually grow out of.
There is such a danger to children because of the hormone therapies that they're offering. We even see, like the state of California, that are wanting to create a slush fund to offer hormone therapy to elementary school children. And what they do then is they're sterilizing the children. There's no studies of long-term effects on children with some of these hormone therapies. There is evidence that many of these hormone therapies cause cancer. We already know that they sterilize these children. And then the idea is that they would create slush funds for the females to have healthy breast tissue removed before they go into puberty. And that is akin to child abuse. And I don't know how anyone can think giving hormones to prepubescent children and to actually remove healthy breast tissue from little girls or pre-teenage girls so that they can transition, that this is a good idea.
However, some states, including Arkansas, Alabama, and Tennessee, have passed legislation to prevent these abusive practices. Watch as President Biden recently spoke on those states that limit gender reassignment surgery for children.
We need to challenge the hundreds of callous, cynical laws introduced in the states targeting transgender children, terrifying families, and criminalizing doctors who give children the care they need.
I think that when you're talking about the transgender issue, you have to go back to what the most basic arguments are, because it gets so clouded and crowded in the mainstream media. What transgenderism is when someone doesn't feel comfortable in their body. They want the gender dysphoria to conquer the person, and they want the person to, instead of embracing their body and how they were naturally born, they want that person to mutilate their body. They want that person to change their body, and they're saying that they'll be happier. Well, we all know that people aren't happier by physical things. They're happier when they get their mind ready and their soul ready.
These dangerous hormone therapies and gender reassignment surgeries often sterilize patients, with many eventually regretting their decision to transition. A California teenager, Chloe Cole, is suing one of the nation's largest healthcare providers, Kaiser Permanente, claiming they coerced her into receiving gender reassignment surgery when she was only 15.
Our friend Harmeet Dillon is now representing a young woman called Chloe Cole, a biological woman who was told she could become a man surgically. Now Harmeet and Cole are suing the doctors who did this to her.
It's a medical malpractice case. I want to hold the adults who put me in harm's way accountable because, what happened to me is horrible, but it's also, it didn't only happen to me. That's the worst part. It's happening to children all over the U.S.
The long-term mental and physical and even lifespan implications are very, very serious. Children are right now the most vulnerable victims to this new radical movement, and parents need to be responsible. They need to understand the reality and look at the best and most responsible way to deal with this new threat to the health and safety and spiritual welfare of their children.